Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to add my words of thank you to you, Mr. Chairman, for introducing this legislation which authorizes and codifies so many really important programs under the Stafford Act. I also want to thank Chairwoman Norton for her work on this as well. Like Chairman Mica, those of us, like Chairman Mica and myself, Ranking Member Mica and myself, are unfortunately too familiar with the devastation that can be caused by natural disasters. And it's obviously imperative that states have programs in place to immediately respond to disasters, as well as programs to respond for and mitigate against the impact of those disasters. Now, I'm proud that the state of Florida, I think, is probably the best prepared in the entire country, prepared before and also the best one suited, the most prepared to respond after a storm. But we will recall that after, and the chairman will recall, because I've heard him talk about this, that what happened after Andrew, after 1992, where Florida was not prepared. And as a response to the devastation caused by Hurricane Andrew in 1992, the Florida state legislature enacted a state building code. And I was one of the sponsors of that building code. Unfortunately, it had some gaps in it, because we all know how difficult it can be to try to get some of these things done, and there's always objections. Just last year, the building code in the state of Florida was, the legislation was amended by the Florida legislature to make it applied to all of the counties, period. Now, since the building code was enacted in Florida, Florida has been hit by numerous hurricanes, including the hurricanes of 2004 and 2005, which really devastated many, many homes and businesses. And though the state faced serious damages after those storms, the devastation was much less than if it would have been if, in fact, we did not have a building code in place. Now, the fact is that the place that was most devastated by those storms was the one area of the state that didn't have that building code. So knowing firsthand of the importance of good building codes, my colleague, Congresswoman Matsui, who's been a leader in these issues from California, and I introduced the Safe Building Code Incentive Act last year. Our bill simply incentivizes states to adopt statewide building codes by providing additional post-disaster mitigation funding for states that have, in effect, and are actively enforcing building codes prior to a storm, because enforcement, as we learn, unfortunately, because of the Andrew experience, is also very important. So language identical to that legislation was included in this bill. A January 2006 study conducted by the LSU Hurricane Center estimated that there could have been a 65% reduction in Katrina wind and rain damages to homes in Mississippi had structures been built to the International Residential Code standard. Now, it's unfortunate that in spite of the proven benefit of these statewide building codes, of good codes, less than 20 states currently have statewide codes in place. Again, look, natural disasters are going to happen, and we need to be ready. I once again, therefore, need to thank Chairman Oberstar for including this, I think, very important language in this legislation. More importantly, for always being open to issues that are important to all of us and to this country. Chairman, again, you've always been accessible. You've always been easy to work with. Your staff has always been accessible. I also want to thank who I always call is frankly the greatest champion that a state could have, and that is Ranking Member Mica, for his invaluable efforts. Thank you both for allowing us and for putting this language in, which I think is very, very important. Thank you, sir.
It was a very good contribution to the bill, and I thank the gentleman for his comments. I appreciate very much his thoughtfulness.